Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Kink Collective podcast. My name is Kat, and I'm here with my partner, Joshua.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about Connection Simplified.
What is Connection Simplified, Kat?
Good question that you asked there. Connection Simplified is the outgrowth of the People Before Kink. We talked a little bit about People Before Kink in our last episode, and so we thought we would dive a little deeper into its evolution, which we called Connection Simplified.
Yeah, the program was developed with the intention of helping people do the work for themselves. And by that, what I mean is, with the work that we do, we usually have an intake process that can be pretty laborious, 2 to 3 hours to fill out, because it's having an understanding of who you are, where you're at, and where you're at today and where you've been to get up to this point is important. Now, while initially the programs were built around kink, it's evolved into not kink, but a bigger purpose and intention of who am I, what do I believe in, what are my intentions in life, what's important to me.
This is where we begin to bring in the spiritual aspect. People have come to us lately interested in the fact that we can make a spiritual connection between kink and ourselves and what we do and what we believe. And this is the process by which people get to do that.
Yeah, it's funny because we removed the kink altogether. And what we've created out of Connection Simplified is it's a 3-hour class where I can't even call it a class, but an experience, a guided experience where people come in, and this, depending on the online version or the in-person versions, we have multiple versions of this, but they all boils down to the same thing. Putting you one-on-one, or depending in small groups or in large groups, to have conversations around things that are important to us. And we'll dive into what some of those questions look like in a few minutes.
So you mentioned, just a second ago, you mentioned a couple different ways to engage with this process. Did you want to say a little bit more about how people get to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few approaches. We have our Connection Simplified Online, which is a 3-hour, I like this like 3 hours and 15 minutes, because ever since COVID and Zoom, people really literally show up on the minute, if not a couple minutes later, because they got this whole elbow room thing. Anyway, so we have a 3-hour version online where we'll pair you one-on-one to connect with an individual based off of this introspection and trying to get an understanding and experience of who am I and who is this person in front of me. We have our in-person large format and medium format, which we host here in New York City, where it's instead of one-on-one, it's small groups where we can have 4 or 5 in a group, or larger groups where we have 10 to 12 people in a group. And then we have the Connection Simplified program parts that are in our People Before Kink and other introspective programs that we have coming out in the near future. So that's a few ways to get introduced to what Connection Simplified is. They all boil down to the introspective work of understanding self, creating a container with either the person or people that we're seated with, self-actualizing by speaking our truth on faith, intention, and purpose within this group, being vulnerable doing that, at the same time holding space for others to be vulnerable, doing it for themselves, while we witness and validate their experiences. It's a very authentic and scary process for a lot of people, because we're sharing things that we haven't shared with most people in conversations on things that no one ever cued us, rarely ever cued us. Mind me, I'm generalizing this. Not many people get to experience these conversations because we haven't been taught how to do this. So through our program, we've learned the power and importance of these types of engagements and experiences, and have built Connection Simplified to do just that, to create these opportunities for experience.
One of the things that you just said that struck me, because it's been revelatory to me in this process, is seeing how validation for a person comes just from listening, right? Like just being present for someone, how they can feel validated. I didn't praise them. I didn't do anything. I just showed up and listened, and then a person gets to walk away feeling validated. That process was sort of new to me, or new to my understanding as we developed this.
Yeah, like what you mentioned about praising. I never thought about it like that, where we're just sitting and holding space without responding positive or negative. At the very most, what I've seen people do and I've done myself is relate to what a person is sharing based off of feelings, not personally actions, right? The things that they fear and I fear never look the same, but at the end of the day, we both still feel fear the same way, just like we feel love and acceptance and joy and sadness and happiness. The feelings are what connects us to each other.
Yeah. I think the point for me about that is whenever I would hear the word validation, I assumed that that meant I needed to do something in order for the person to feel validated, when in fact what we've discovered is people feel that way just because they've been genuinely heard.
Yeah, 100%. And what it really is, at least when it comes to the program and how people get here, is they're ready for these conversations. Because introspection sounds fun, it sounds cool, until you're sitting there asking yourself questions around your relationship with your body, with your spirit, with your beliefs, good experiences, bad experiences, being able to revisit them and then share them. Not a lot of people are open to doing that legwork.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this so powerful, is the intentions of people attending these programs, whether it's our online program, whether it's our weekend intensive, whether it's going to be the silent retreat that we have coming up. Take note, silent retreat. But that's what it is.
Yeah. Or even the work that's coming up in the Power Exchange Academy, right? Like all of the process, all of the presentations that we have are predicated on this process of coming to know yourself and gaining the skills to speak about who you are in front of another person and then be able to witness them do the same. And I think that was just my side point, was about how validation happens in this very simple process, not easy, but simple process of showing up, speaking our truth, and then creating space for others to do the same.
I like how you put easy versus simple, right? Because easy, people do easy. People don't do simple, right? The easy way out, the easy way in, is like there's no effort, effortless. But the simplicity of this is the difficult part, right? Because we're asking people to be honest with themselves. And it starts off with, what do I want and what am I looking for? And what does this program provide them? What answers does this program provide them, Kat?
What answers does our program provide? It provides answers about, like, where am I on my journey? What am I looking to get when I engage with other people? You know, what do I want from a program like this? But that question extends to, what do I want in any of my interactions when I meet someone? What am I looking for?
It starts with an inventory upon sign up, right? It's like the message is, who am I? How do I hold space for myself? And how do I respect me first?
Yeah.
Right? Am I being seen and heard the way I want to be seen and heard? And a lot of folks that come to the program aren't feeling that.
Right.
They want to feel equal. They want to feel respected and not judged for their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
So when they sign up, what happens after they sign up? After they find us through this amazing podcast that we're hosting, and they're like, "Oh my God, we need to get more information."
So after they're all excited about us and they find us, they sign up, and then I send out this preliminary set of paperwork, which is some of the stuff we've been talking about. You get an in-depth questionnaire. We ask you to send back a little bit of information about yourself so we can just know a little bit about who are you, where do you live, and how much experience do you have with any kind of thing like this, et cetera. Then we send out the questionnaire that has all the in-depth questions, and we ask you to sit with it and answer them for yourself, with the understanding you don't need to send that back to us, but you want to show up to the event prepared to talk about those things, or at least have that knowledge about yourself when you step in.
And these are some interesting questions. I have a few of them here. So I'm going to read off a few so that folks can hear the progression of this. So we break it off into sections depending on the size of the Connection Simplified program, depending if it's one-on-one versus small groups versus large groups. We have different questions for different areas. And what's great about these questions is you're always going to be in a different place in your life to answer them. So like the first set is, tell me about yourself, tell me about your journey so far. And we leave these questions up into interpretation.
Yeah. All of the questions we indicate, the questions are touchstones for people. Once you begin to make the connection, there's an organic process that happens in genuine communication that our questions shouldn't take the place of.
Yeah, right. So even on like the first set, what would you like to take to get from a program like this? When you have new people sitting in this space, you're going to have different answers between all of them. And when they hear themselves in each other's voices, or they have new perspectives from what they're hearing, it's really game changing. Further down the line, there's questions like, what makes you feel drawn to another person? What does trust mean? And what does it take to build? What kinds of topics interest you? Right? General self awareness questions that we don't get to sit with often, especially what does trust mean and what does it take to build?
Yeah. A lot of people haven't even spent any time thinking about that, right? And trust is so foundational to our abilities to feel safe with each other and our abilities to determine if I even have a connection. It's hard to feel like I'm connected to someone if I, at the root, don't trust them.
The the kicker for it is when you speak it, when you're answering these questions for yourself, you're self-actualizing, you're speaking your truth to someone and saying, this is what it takes for me to build trust, and this is what it looks like, so that you can have that awareness for yourself. So when you're moving forward past this program's such a milestone for people, because once you do this, you don't undo it. Like it's like you can't.
It's a good way to put it.
You can't undo this self-awareness, and it's like, well, if this is what trust means to me, now I have to reflect with all the relationships in my life to see which ones are actually falling in line, or am I just talking the talk?
Yeah. So we do talk about the difference between talking the talk and walking the walk, but that's another whole subject, right? So going further, we begin to get to another set of questions, one of which is, what are characteristics, morals, and values that are important to you generally? And we ask people to narrow it down to three. What are the three most important values or morals with regard to other people for you? Like, how do people have to show up in the world for you to want to engage with them?
Being aware of this information for yourself is what changes the trajectory of your journey, because now you can't say you didn't know.
Yeah.
Now you can't say I didn't know that about myself, or I'm not sure. And if you aren't sure, now's a good time to figure that shit out.
Yeah.
Because these are things that we need to be aware of. Like, and I always come back to this question. One of my favorite questions is, what do you wish people knew about you?
Yeah. Every time you and I answer that question for another intensive, the answer changes somewhat, right? The other thing, too, that I was just thinking as we were talking about the last question is a lot of times we stay in relationships that aren't good for us. And some of the way that we fool ourselves into thinking that it's okay is by not getting specific about answers to these kinds of questions, right? If I know what are the most important values or morals for me in another person, and one of the people I'm with is clearly in flagrant violation of one of those things, I have to say to myself, what am I doing? Right? It gets harder to go into that, I'm not paying attention, it's okay, without it really being okay. This is how we get clear about who do we want to have in our life and how do we want people to show up.
It's almost like one of those fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. No, the other way. That's my hat off to George W. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There
right.
we go.
Yeah, that.
I got it.
Yeah, like that. It's true though. Like, I don't know how many people out there I have been in relationships with someone who didn't have my best interest at heart, or was more concerned with them than they were with whatever. You can fill in any blank. And part of the reason why I would stay in that longer than I might have is I don't make myself focus on these things and get clear.
Awareness, and the ability to give someone a chance. Because, like, what happens is when you come through Connection Simplified, you pick up a new skill set in communication in a way that no one else is doing this with or for us. And what we don't want you to do is to burn all your bridges down because no one else has graduated with you. What we're asking you to do is to be the example, to set the example of person that you want to be, that you want out there in their life. Embody it in yourself and create that example for others in your life by showing them what these new skill sets in communication are.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, even with the characteristics thing, like off the top of my head, one of the things that's really important to me is loyalty, right? I need the people around me to be loyal. But that starts with me being loyal. Am I being a loyal friend, a loyal partner, a loyal person, right? Like that's where this type of introspective work can be simple but not easy.
Yeah,
Right?
simple, no, yeah.
Like, do I want to, they talk about shadow work and your dark side, right? Like, it's one thing for me to say, I need people to be X, but am I being X? Can I look at myself and say, where am I not? Where in my life am I not showing up as, like, in this case, a loyal friend, or, and do that work with myself?
Yeah, the awareness of it is the first step. Is you have to be aware that there are other ways to doing things, and don't make it sound like I'm standing on a pillar, because by all means, I'm no expert at this, but the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
You had mentioned about loss of connections,
You mean in terms of moving on?
people in our lives.
Yeah, people in our lives, and some of that has happened. Like I spoke in the episode we did about me. I started out my life, like, my very first relationship was very troubled, right? Addiction and et cetera, et cetera. As I began to get in touch with myself, even at that point in my life, and want to move forward, there were people around me that didn't want to go there. They weren't vested in their own development. And as it turned out, they weren't that interested in mine for me. And the awareness of that was really shocking. Like, I just assumed everybody wants what's in everybody's best interest. And that didn't turn out to be true. And so it started that road for me of, as I get better, the people who are in my life now, some will come with me, and some it will be like, thank you for the role you had in my life now, and now I have to move on. But it's only this process that lets me know who that is or what that's about.
Making space. We were sitting in a group discussion very similar to what we're doing with Connection Simplified, the large format version. We went because our journey doesn't stop with ourselves, right? I'm always open to learning and gaining information and experiences from others who are walking similar paths or just opposite paths, where I'm always looking to learn. And when we were sitting in one of these groups, there was something someone said around, it's okay to cut connections that you're self-sacrificing in order to make space for connections where you don't have to self-sacrifice. And that was like a kick in the shin for me, because it's, again, simple but not easy, right?
Right.
We have to be willing to say, this is the life I'm living because of the inventory and introspection I did. This is the life that I want to live. How do I get there from point A to point B? And who's going with me?
Right.
Because not everyone can come.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the things that I learned in this process that I just spoke of, is this how I hold my hand through the scary part is, if I let go of what's not working for me now, all it does is make space for the universe to bring me what will work. To the degree that I'm holding on with both hands to those things that don't work is to the degree that I'm not open to better things to come, for things that are more aligned with who I really am. I have no room for that if I'm busy clutching on to everything that doesn't work anymore.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And this program helps. It's helped me. Developing this program's helped me. Hosting these programs helped me. Reflecting on these programs have helped me in so many ways that, and it comes back to, who is this program for?
Right.
This program is for everyone, and anyone who's looking to have a better understanding of themselves, who's looking to find others that are open and willing to do this introspective work and have important conversations. And important conversations, by that I just mean things that matter to you. Because in this introspection, as you're reflecting before coming to this program, you're going to learn about what's important to you when you're sitting there thinking about it, because you've been prompted to think about it.
Yeah. And one of the things that in these conversations you and I have been having is, this program is for everybody. Everybody that, right? Everybody that is willing to do this work. Everybody that is open and honest and willing to come in and make connections with themselves and with other people. And honestly, that's not everybody.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Building tribe is another one.
Yeah.
Finding people that think like ourselves. And not to say that I want to surround myself with people who think just like me. Not at all. I want to surround myself with people who are able to think for themselves dynamically, be open to hearing others' opinions and thoughts, and willing to adapt and change with new information and education. Because we don't know everything.
Right.
And to surround myself with people who are here to help me grow as opposed to keep me stagnant is part of why I do this.
Yeah, I got that image of what you when you were just speaking of, people who surround themselves with essentially yes men, people who surround themselves with people who are only going to validate what they currently believe. And even if it's by virtue of a small interest group, like we all believe the same political things, and so we're all together, and nobody challenges anybody to grow, and there's no room for anybody to change their mind or their place or if their spirit moves them. We haven't made a connection as people. We've made connections as, political philosophy.
Yeah. Connection Simplified builds tribe. I mean, we have an alumni group of almost 150 now of people who've come through the program from all walks of life. And I think one of the biggest experiences, best experiences I've taken away from this is from one of our intensives where we had all layers of representation, gender, sexual orientation, all levels of it. And at the end, everyone was engaging with everyone in a very intimate setting, right? Body painting, no less, where no one batted an eye. It wasn't about gender or it wasn't about any social markers. But the fact that we were all able to be in one space, find a level of communication that raises the bar of what our journey is, right? Because that's what spaces are. Spaces boil down to the lowest common denominator in that space. And we wanted to raise that bar for what it means to hold space, to take up space, in positive ways, and to support others in coming out of the corners and off the walls so that they can find themselves and they take up the space that they need to validate their experience and just to be in the room like they deserve.
That was beautiful. It was so well put. And I was when you brought it up, I did think back to that body painting and how beautiful that was, right? Because there were people of all sizes, shapes, colors, and everyone was there just freely, right? In this fun body painting. There were sparkles and sprinkles and colors and it was just, everyone was so free, right? That's the part where I keep coming back to, oh my goodness, how blessed am I that I even get to participate in this, right? Like to help people come to this. And it is life-changing, right? Once you've stood as a once afraid person in front of other people with no fear, you can't take that back. Like you were saying, you can't go back to not having been the person who saw what it was like to stand in front of a room full of others, naked, metaphorically or even physically, and be accepted and know that you're okay and know that everyone in the room loves you too, and you don't have to be any different than how you are to be accepted by a circle of your peers.
Peers, yeah. And peers are defined by people who are looking for personal growth, self-acceptance, and to belong.
Yeah.
Right? To belong in space. So how can people learn more about Connection Simplified?
They can come to the website.
What website is that?
KinkCollective.net. Right? You can search for our Kink Collective events on Eventbrite. You can search for us on Instagram and Facebook and all those places. But the most easiest place to go is to the website at KinkCollective.net.
Only sign up if you're ready for change.
Yeah. You're one of the this is for everybody if you're ready for change.
Yeah. And legit, it happens instantly. By the end of that 3-hour block, everything's turned up right side up. I can't even say upside down.
Yeah.
Things have turned right side up. It's such a beautiful experience, and we look forward to meeting you listener, the one that's about to sign up on the website. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah. Send us an email. We'll get right back to you.
Thank you. That was an awesome recap of Connection Simplified. I think getting this information out there is important because there are folks out there like us who are looking to get a better understanding of what this life journey is about.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you at the next Kink Collective podcast soon.
Come back.
Come back. Bye.
Bye.